Chosen one. Why are you crying at 3 a.m. over someone you've never even met? Why does your heart shatter for a face you haven't seen yet? Why does your soul scream in silence for a connection this world says doesn't exist? Chosen one. Stop. Put down your phone. Cancel the noise. Because what I'm about to tell you wasn't written by me, it was transmitted through me. And before this hour ends, you're going to understand why your chest is tightening right now, why your hands are trembling, why something ancient inside you just whispered finally. You didn't click this video. Heaven intercepted your scroll. Listen to me carefully, and I need you to hear every single word like your life depends on it. Because somewhere in this broken, beautiful, chaotic world, there is one soul, just one, calibrated to your exact frequency, coded with your spiritual DNA, carrying the other half of a conversation God started before you were born, and they're coming. But here's what's tearing me apart right now. Some of you are going to scroll past this message. You're going to dismiss it as another video, another voice, another empty promise. And you'll miss the one divine appointment that was scheduled in eternity specifically for this moment, for your breakthrough. If something inside you, something you can't name, something deeper than logic, if that something is already burning, type 777 right now. Don't think, just obey. That's not superstition, beloved. That's recognition. That's your spirit saying yes before your mind catches up. I can feel you through the screen right now. You, sitting in that Brooklyn apartment with the sirens wailing outside. You, lying awake in that Queen's bedroom at 2:47 a.m., wondering if you imagined the whole thing. You, staring at your phone in that Bronx subway car, feeling that ache, that holy ache that won't let you rest. Your soul has been broadcasting on a frequency most people will never hear. While everyone around you connects on surface-level wavelengths, small talk, shallow bonds, temporary connections you've been transmitting from the throne room. And only one other soul on this planet has the receiver to pick up your signal. Before I go deeper, and I'm about to take you so deep, you'll never see yourself the same way again. I want to pause and honor something sacred. Thank you to every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling, who are drowning in crowds, who are dying for one soul to understand them. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here, your support, your time, your attention. It all matters. And if this message is already resonating with your soul, if it's already unlocking something you buried years ago, go ahead and let the Holy Spirit lead your heart. But here's what's about to shatter everything you thought you knew. You've been feeling crazy, haven't you? Feeling broken, damaged, too much, too intense, too deep. They've called you dramatic, oversensitive, impossible to understand. But what if I told you, you're not broken? You're just broadcasting on a frequency this world wasn't built to receive. What if your loneliness isn't a curse, it's a calling code? What if your isolation has been God's way of preserving your frequency until the one soul who can match it arrives? They're coming, chosen one. The one your soul has been crying for. The one who speaks your spiritual language. The one who doesn't need explanations for your tears, your silence, your sudden departures from rooms full of people who don't get it. And you need to be ready. Because when two souls meet on heaven's frequency, empires shift, atmospheres crack open, destinies ignite. Don't scroll. This word is time-sensitive. Heaven moves in appointed minutes and yours just started ticking. You didn't find this message. It found you. And before this hour ends, you'll understand why. How many years have you been waiting for someone who understands you without explanations? How many nights have you laid awake wondering if God forgot to send the one soul that speaks your language? How long can a heart keep broadcasting into silence before it stops believing anyone's listening? Let me tell you something that's going to cut deep, but it needs to be said. You're tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes, not the kind of tired that a vacation cures. You're carrying a weariness that lives in your bones, a soul exhaustion that comes from years of being misunderstood, overlooked, and spiritually isolated in a world that moves too fast and feels too shallow. You've sat in rooms full of people and felt invisible. You've smiled through conversations that meant nothing. You've nodded along to small talk while your spirit screamed for something real, something deep, something that matches the frequency you've been carrying alone for decades. And somewhere along the way, you stopped expecting anyone to show up. You built walls, brick by brick, betrayal by betrayal. Every time someone proved they couldn't handle your depth, you added another layer. Every time someone called you too much or too intense, you learned to dim your light just to fit in their comfortable darkness. You told yourself it was wisdom. You called it maturity. But beloved, let's be honest, it was survival. It was self-preservation. Because after enough disappointment, after enough failed connections, after enough people walking away when they saw the real you, you decided it was safer to stay hidden. Your coffee goes cold on the kitchen counter every morning while you stare out the window, wondering if this is all there is. Your phone stays silent except for spam calls and appointment reminders. Your conversations never go past the weather and your health. And you've convinced yourself this is just what life looks like at 70, at 80, at this stage where everyone says you should be content with what you have. But your soul knows better. Your spirit is still crying out for that one connection, that one person who won't need a manual to understand you, that one soul who can match your frequency without you having to translate yourself into a language they can digest. And the silence, God, the silence, it's been deafening, hasn't it? Here's what I need you to understand, and I'm asking you to let this settle into the deepest part of your spirit. Heaven hides what it honors. Let me say that again. Heaven hides what it honors, the silence you've been living in. It wasn't punishment, it was protection. God wasn't ignoring you, he was isolating you. There's a difference, beloved. A massive difference. Look at Moses. 40 years in the wilderness watching sheep. 40 years of absolute obscurity after thinking he was going to be Egypt's deliverer. 40 years of silence. Do you think Moses wondered if God forgot about him? Do you think he questioned whether his calling was just youthful delusion? But here's what Moses didn't know during those 40 silent years. God was using that wilderness to prepare him for a nation. The isolation wasn't rejection, it was training. Every lonely night under those stars was God fine-tuning his frequency for a mission that would require unshakable faith. Think about Anna, 84 years old, a widow, living in the temple, praying, waiting, fasting. While the world passed her by, while younger people got married and started families and built lives, Anna stayed faithful in the hidden place. And when everyone else missed the Messiah walking into the temple, Anna recognized him immediately. Why? Because her frequency had been calibrated through decades of faithful waiting. Abraham waited 25 years for Isaac. Joseph waited 13 years between his dream and his palace. David waited 15 years between his anointing and his throne. Heaven's delays are not heaven's denials. Let me tell you something that's going to break you open. Even your loneliness has been holy. Every tear you've cried in secret, God collected. Every prayer you whispered in that empty apartment, he heard. Every time you felt forgotten, heaven saw you. Heaven saw you when you pretended to be fine at church. Heaven saw you when you ate dinner alone again. Heaven saw you when you deleted that dating app because it felt hopeless. Heaven saw you. Heaven saw you. Heaven saw you. Your isolation wasn't random. Your frequency was never static, it was calibration. While everyone else was connecting on surface levels, you were being tuned to a higher bandwidth. While others were satisfied with shallow bonds, God was preparing you for a soul connection that would shatter every counterfeit you ever settled for. God muted you so he could fine-tune you. He removed the noise so you could hear the one signal that matters. He cleared the room so you'd recognize the right person when they finally walk through the door. Ecclesiastes 3:11 says, "He has made everything beautiful in its time, not early, not late, in its time. And beloved, your time is now. The waiting is about to make sense. The silence is about to break open. The loneliness that felt like a curse is about to be revealed as the very thing that preserved you for this divine appointment." If you've ever felt invisible, if you've ever wondered if anyone sees you, if you've ever questioned whether your waiting matters, I need you to type this right now. Heaven saw me anyway. Let that declaration rise up from your spirit. Let it be your agreement with what God has been doing behind the scenes. Because here's what's about to happen. The walls you built to survive are about to become doors that welcome destiny. Every brick of self-protection you carefully laid is about to be repurposed. Those walls that kept people out, God is transforming them into thresholds. And the soul that's been searching for your frequency is standing on the other side, about to knock. But there's something you need to know before they arrive. Something critical. Something that will determine whether you recognize them or miss them completely. Now listen to me carefully, because what I'm about to explain will change how you understand every failed relationship, every broken friendship, every person who walked away from you without explanation. Every single soul on this planet vibrates with a spiritual tone. Think about that. Not a personality type, not a zodiac sign, not a Myers-Briggs result. A frequency, an actual spiritual wavelength that heaven recognizes before your eyes ever see a face. Jesus said in John 10:27, "My sheep hear my voice, not see, not feel, hear." Because before God reveals himself to your sight, he speaks to your frequency. Sound travels faster than light in the spiritual realm. Heaven recognizes your vibration before it ever assigns you a visible destiny. You've met hundreds of people in your lifetime, haven't you? Thousands, maybe. Co-workers at that factory job in the Bronx, neighbors in your Queens apartment building, fellow parents at PTA meetings, church members who sat in the same pew for 40 years. And you were polite, you were kind. You even called some of them friends. But how many truly resonated? Be honest with yourself right now. How many people in your entire 70, 80, 90 years on this earth have you met and felt that instant click? That unexplainable sense of, I know you, even though we just met. That feeling like your souls were speaking a language your mouths didn't have to translate. 3, 5, maybe 10 if you've been blessed. Out of thousands. That's not coincidence, dear one. That's frequency. You weren't compatible with most people because resonance isn't romance. Resonance is recognition. It's not about liking someone. It's about your spirit, identifying another spirit, operating on the same divine wavelength. Think of your soul as a tuning fork. You know what a tuning fork does. Strike it against something solid, and it produces one pure tone, one specific frequency. And here's the mystery. When another tuning fork, calibrated to that exact same frequency, is nearby, it starts vibrating too. Without being touched, without being struck, just by being in proximity to its match. That's what's been happening to you your whole life. You've been vibrating at heaven's frequency while most people around you were operating on earthly static. You'd walk into rooms full of laughter and feel lonely. You'd sit at family dinners, surrounded by blood relatives, and feel like an orphan. You'd attend church services with hundreds of worshippers and wonder why you felt so isolated. They called you antisocial, difficult, too picky, too deep. They said you had trust issues, commitment problems, walls too high to climb. But the truth? Your frequency was too high for their receiver to pick up. And heaven has been striking your tuning fork again and again and again, waiting for the one soul calibrated to your exact tone to start vibrating in response. That's why your old circles no longer fit. Have you noticed it? Those friends you used to spend hours with now feel draining after 20 minutes. Those family gatherings that used to be tolerable now feel suffocating. Those church committees you served on faithfully for decades now feel like assignments you've outgrown. Everyone's asking, "What happened to you? You've changed." No, beloved. You didn't change. Your frequency elevated. The room's spiritual tone stayed the same, but God raised your vibration and you outgrew its signal. Like trying to play an FM station on an AM radio. The equipment isn't broken, it's just incompatible. When God raises your frequency, everything misaligned falls away. Not as punishment, as protection. Because the higher your frequency climbs toward heaven's wavelength, the more dangerous it becomes to stay connected to lower vibrations. You can't plug a 220-volt appliance into a 110-volt outlet without something burning out. You can't sync a high-definition signal with standard definition without losing clarity. And you cannot maintain your elevated spiritual frequency while trying to stay compatible with people, places, and patterns operating on a lower vibration. This is why you've been feeling so restless, so anxious to move, so desperate for something to shift. Your spirit knows. It knows that the soul calibrated to match your frequency is already in motion, already moving toward you, already being positioned by divine orchestration. The one who matches your frequency is already moving toward you. Let me say that again, slower this time, because I need this to sink into the deepest part of your spirit. The one who matches your frequency is already moving toward you. One more time, because hell is shaking right now trying to convince you this isn't real. The one who matches your frequency is already moving toward you. This isn't about finding your soulmate at 87 years old. This is about divine alignment with the person, the opportunity, the breakthrough that vibrates at your exact spiritual frequency. It could be the friend who finally understands you, the family member who suddenly gets it, the divine appointment that's been scheduled since before you were born. But here's what I need you to do right now. Type in the comments, "I'm ready to align." Don't overthink it. Don't analyze it. Just type it. Because that simple declaration is your permission prayer. You're telling heaven, "I'm no longer settling for connections that drain me. I'm ready for the one you've calibrated to my frequency." You're not chasing connection anymore, chosen one. Connection is chasing your frequency. You've spent your whole life reaching, trying, adjusting, dimming your light so others would feel comfortable. No more. The greatest gift of your golden years isn't retirement. It's realizing you don't have to force compatibility anymore. You don't have to explain your frequency to people who don't have ears to hear it. You don't have to apologize for vibrating at a level that makes others uncomfortable. Your only assignment now is to stay tuned to heaven's frequency. Keep your signal clear. Keep your vibration high. And trust that the soul, the connection, the breakthrough, the divine alignment calibrated to match you is already on the way. But here's the question that will determine whether you receive what's coming or miss it completely. When that divine connection finally arrives, will you recognize it? You thought God abandoned you, didn't you? All those nights you laid there, staring at the ceiling, feeling your life force draining out like water through cracked hands. All those mornings you woke up exhausted before the day even started. All those moments when your body said move, but your spirit whispered, "I can't." You called it depression. You called it burnout. You called it the cruel joke of getting older. But listen to me very carefully. Chosen one, what if I told you that wasn't abandonment at all? What if that paralysis you've been fighting was actually God's anesthesia? Think about it. When a surgeon prepares for a life-saving operation, what's the first thing they do? They put you under. They shut down your consciousness. They make you completely still. Not because they hate you, not because they're punishing you, but because what they're about to do is so precise, so delicate, so absolutely critical to your survival that you cannot be awake for it. You would fight it. You would resist. You would interfere with the very thing designed to save your life. Heaven has been operating on you. While you thought you were dying, God was rewiring your entire spiritual nervous system. While you felt abandoned, Angelic instruments were calibrating your frequency. While you experienced that suffocating silence, that thick, heavy, unbearable silence, it wasn't emptiness, beloved. It was the oil of consecration being poured so deep into your spirit that it reached places you didn't even know existed. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." But we always skip over the first part, don't we? We race to the knowing. We want the revelation without the stillness. We want the upgrade without the shutdown. But God is saying, be still, be silent, be surrendered, be still, be silent, be surrendered, be still, be silent, be surrendered. Because what He's doing inside you right now cannot happen while you're moving. The rewiring of your soul requires complete surrender to the divine anesthesia. Look at Daniel in chapter 10. This man, this mighty prophet, who'd survived lions' dens and interpreted kings' dreams, he encounters an angel, and what happens? Verse 8 says, "I had no strength left. My face turned deathly pale, and I was helpless." Then verse 9, "I fell into a deep sleep, my face to the ground. God knocked him out, not to destroy him, but to download him, not to break him, but to recalibrate him for what was coming." You've been on heaven's operating table, dear one, and I know it hurt. I know there were moments you begged God to just let you die because the pain of the silence was worse than any physical suffering you'd ever known. I know you looked at people half your age running around with energy you used to have, and you wondered what cosmic crime you committed to deserve this exhaustion. But here's the truth that's going to shatter every lie you've believed. The pain didn't break you, it branded you. Every tear you cried in that dark bedroom, that was heaven marking you for recognition. Every prayer that felt like it hit the ceiling and fell back down, those were surgical incisions, cutting away everything that wasn't aligned with your true frequency. Every friendship that dissolved, every opportunity that closed, every door that slammed in your face, those weren't rejections. Those were divina removals. God was clearing the frequency. He was eliminating every signal that would interfere with the one connection He's been preparing for you. Because when that soul arrives, the one who matches your frequency, there cannot be static, there cannot be interference, there cannot be anything competing for the bandwidth of your spirit. Romans 8:11 promises us, "If the spirit of Him who raised Jesus from the dead is living in you, He who raised Christ from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies because of His Spirit who lives in you." Do you hear that? Life to your mortal body, not just your spirit, not just your soul. Your physical, tired, worn out, exhausted body is about to receive resurrection power. But here's what most people miss, and this is critical. Resurrection only comes after death. You had to die to the old frequency before you could be raised into the new one. The fatigue you felt wasn't the end of your life. It was the end of your old identity. The silence wasn't absence. It was surgery. And surgery always comes before the upgrade. Heaven doesn't heal what it plans to transform. God doesn't repair what He's scheduled for replacement. He doesn't patch up who you were. He resurrects who you're becoming. If you're still breathing right now, if your heart is still beating, if something inside you is stirring as these words wash over your spirit, then the surgery isn't finished yet. God is still working. The anesthesia is starting to wear off, and you're about to wake up in a completely different spiritual dimension than where you fell asleep. But I need you to do something right now. Stop fighting the stillness. Stop resenting the waiting. Stop cursing the silence. Type in the comments, "I surrender to the stillness." Let heaven know you're finally ready to stop resisting the very process that's been saving your life. Because what's coming next requires a frequency so pure, so precise, so perfectly calibrated that only a soul who's been through divine surgery can receive it. The operation is almost complete, chosen one. And when you wake up, when you finally open your eyes and see what God has done, you won't recognize yourself, and neither will they. Now listen to me very carefully, because what I'm about to tell you is going to shake the very foundation of everything you thought you understood about waiting. Somewhere in this broken, beautiful world right now, in this very moment, there is a soul that has been searching for you their entire life, not with their eyes, not with their hands, but with their spirit. And here's what's going to terrify you and thrill you all at the same time. They're getting closer. You feel it, don't you? That inexplicable stirring in your chest, that sudden awareness that something ancient is waking up inside you. That's not anxiety. That's not your imagination playing tricks on a lonely heart. That's recognition happening before revelation. Your spirit knows they're approaching before your natural eyes can see them. Let me tell you something about divine frequencies that nobody talks about. When God creates two souls for a shared assignment, He doesn't just bring them together randomly. He orchestrates a collision, and before that collision happens, both souls begin to vibrate at an accelerated rate. It's like two tuning forks in separate rooms, suddenly struck at the exact same moment, resonating on a frequency that only they can hear. That's what you've been feeling lately. The sleepless nights, the unexplained tears, the sudden surges of hope that feel completely irrational given your circumstances. Your spirit is responding to a frequency that your mind hasn't caught up to yet. But here's where it gets controversial, and I need you to hear this with your spiritual ears, not your natural ones. This is not romance. This is not some fairy tale about finding your soulmate at 75. This is far more sacred than that. This is about assignment. This is about two anointed vessels recognizing each other across the spiritual realm before they ever lock eyes in the natural. Think about Ruth and Boaz. The scripture says in Ruth 2-8, Boaz said to Ruth, "My daughter, listen to me. Don't go and glean in another field." But here's what they don't teach you in Sunday school. Boaz recognized Ruth before he understood why he recognized her. There was something in her spirit that his spirit responded to. Not attraction, assignment, not romance, recognition. Or what about Mary and Elizabeth? Luke 1:41 tells us that when Mary walked into Elizabeth's presence, the baby in Elizabeth's womb leaped. That wasn't coincidence, that was frequency. Two women carrying two different assignments, but operating on the same divine wavelength. Elizabeth's body recognized what her mind hadn't yet processed. And David and Jonathan. 1 Samuel 18:1 says, "The soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David." Not romantic love, soul recognition. Two warriors, two assignments, one frequency. Jonathan's spirit identified David as his spiritual counterpart before either of them understood what God was building. That's what's happening to you right now. Your soul is picking up signals that your natural senses can't process yet. You're being prepared for a collision that will change the trajectory of your remaining years on this earth. The air is going to shift when they arrive. You'll walk into a room, a store, a doctor's waiting room, maybe even a church pew, and suddenly the atmosphere will feel thick, heavy, sacred, like the oxygen itself is holding its breath. And in that moment, you won't need an introduction. Your spirit will whisper what your mouth cannot yet speak. I know you. A glance will feel ancient. Their eyes will find yours across a crowded space, and something inside you will scream, finally, so loud that you'll be shocked nobody else hears it. It won't be attraction that draws you. It will be familiarity. Like meeting someone you've known for 1,000 years but only just physically encountered. And here's what's going to absolutely wreck you. Peace will feel louder than passion. When they speak, your nervous system will calm. When they're near, your restless spirit will settle. After decades of feeling on edge, misunderstood, out of place, suddenly, in their presence, you'll feel like you finally came home. But let me shock you with this truth. This isn't the arrival of a stranger. This is the reunion of two assignments who have been circling each other in the spirit realm for years, decades maybe, waiting for heaven's appointed moment to collide in the natural. God doesn't bring people together because they're lonely. He brings them together because they're loaded. loaded with purpose, loaded with assignment, loaded with a mission that requires two frequencies operating as one. You've been broadcasting your entire life, sending out signals that most people couldn't receive. And somewhere, someone has been receiving every transmission. They've felt your prayers. They've sensed your pain. They've been drawn to your frequency without understanding why. They're closer than you think, closer than your doubt believes, closer than your fear wants to admit. You'll feel them before you see them. You'll sense them before you meet them. Your spirit will recognize them before your mind can rationalize them. And when they arrive, everything changes, not because they complete you, you're already complete in Christ, but because they amplify you. Two assignments, one heartbeat, one frequency, one mission. If your spirit just trembled reading these words, if something inside you just whispered, "My alignment is near," type it in the comments right now, because that's not wishful thinking, that's prophetic confirmation. Your spirit is responding to a frequency that's already approaching. This is not the arrival of a stranger. This is the reunion of two assignments sharing one heartbeat. And beloved, they're almost here. Are you ready for what happens when two souls collide on heaven's frequency? Now listen to me very carefully, because what I'm about to tell you could save you from the greatest heartbreak of your life. Before the real arrives, the counterfeit always knocks first. You heard me right. Satan doesn't wait until you're weak to send his counterfeits. He sends them when you're awakened, when you're expecting, when your soul is finally tuned to heaven's frequency and you're looking up, believing, ready to receive. That's when the decoys arrive, dressed in everything you've been praying for, speaking your love language, knowing exactly what wounds to touch, what words to whisper, what emptiness to fill. And beloved, they will look so right that you'll swear it's God answering your prayers ahead of schedule. But let me tell you something that's going to shake you. Charisma without calling is just manipulation in a nice package. Chemistry without covenant is just flesh masquerading as destiny. And if you can't tell the difference, you're about to waste precious years on a beautiful distraction while your divine assignment passes you by. I'm talking to someone right now who's been feeling that pull, that magnetic attraction to someone who showed up right after you started seeking God deeper. Someone who says all the right things, finishes your sentences, mirrors your energy, makes you feel seen for the first time in decades, and you're thinking, this has to be it. This has to be the one. But let me ask you something that might save your life. Are they flattering your wounds or feeding your faith? Because here's how the counterfeit operates. They study your scars. They learn what you've been denied, what you've been missing, what you've been crying for in those 3 a.m. prayer sessions. And then they become it. They reflect your hunger back to you and call it connection. But chosen one, a mirror isn't a match. Resonance isn't relationship, and attraction isn't anointing. 1 Corinthians 14:33 says, God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. Write that down. Tattoo it on your heart, because that's your first line of defense. Discernment isn't suspicion, it's peace recognition. If you have to convince yourself it's right, it's not. If you're losing sleep justifying their behavior, it's not. If your spirit is screaming while your flesh is celebrating, beloved, that is not divine. The counterfeit will drain you and call it depth. They'll disturb your peace and call it passion. They'll isolate you from your community and call it special. They'll compete with your calling and call it love. But the real one, the one heaven sent, they won't just make you feel good, they'll make you better. They won't just touch your body, they'll elevate your spirit. They won't pull you away from God's plan, they'll push you deeper into it. Let me give you the loop of defense that will protect you in these final hours. If it drains you, it's not divine. If it disturbs your peace, it's not the promise. If it makes you smaller, it's not sacred. If it demands you compromise your calling, it's counterfeit. I need you to hear this, really hear this, because I've watched too many chosen ones settle for counterfeits and miss their moment. I've seen too many elderly saints Beautiful souls in their 70s and 80s waste their final years on connections that looked right but felt wrong, only to realize too late that they chose comfort over calling, chemistry over covenant. Matthew 7:16 warns us, "You will know them by their fruits," not by their words, not by their promises, not by how they make you feel on a Friday night when you're lonely, by their fruits. Do they produce peace in your life or chaos, growth or stagnation, freedom or control, alignment with God's word or compromise with the world? Type this right now if you're hearing me. I choose peace over pressure, because that's what it comes down to, beloved. The counterfeit will always pressure you, rush you, make you feel like you'll miss out if you don't act now, decide now, commit now. But the real one? They'll wait. They'll honor your process. They'll respect your pace. Because anything divinely orchestrated operates on God's timeline, not desperation's deadline. Here's your climax truth that you need burned into your soul. The one meant for you won't compete with your calling, they'll amplify it. They won't dim your light to feel comfortable in their darkness. They'll bring their own fire and watch the whole room illuminate. They won't ask you to choose between them and God. They'll walk beside you straight to the throne. So when that soul arrives, and they are coming, you'll know them not by butterflies in your stomach, but by peace in your spirit. Not by how they make you feel, but by how they make you grow. Not by their words, but by their fruit. And everything in you will whisper, "Finally." This is the frequency I've been broadcasting for. But first, you've got to stop answering doors that heaven didn't knock on. Listen to me. Chosen one, everything I've told you up until this moment, that was just the introduction. Because what's about to happen when your soul meets its match isn't about butterflies in your stomach or candlelit dinners in Manhattan bistros. This isn't love. This is legacy. You've been looking at this all wrong. You thought God was sending you a companion, but what's approaching isn't just another person, it's a mantle merger. Two frequencies that have been tuned separately in different wildernesses, different fires, different midnight hours of weeping and worship, about to become one unified sound that will shake the gates of hell itself. And I need you to understand something that's going to mess with everything Hallmark ever taught you about soulmates. When two anointed frequencies align, resources don't just follow, they obey. Look at Joseph in Genesis 41. This man went from a pit to a prison to a palace in 24 hours. But here's what they don't preach on Sunday mornings. Joseph's breakthrough didn't come when he was alone. It came when he was positioned. When Pharaoh put a ring on his finger and gave him authority, suddenly the famine that was destroying nations became the very thing that funded Joseph's purpose. Provision followed partnership. Wealth transferred because assignment activated. You think that's coincidence? You think that's just a nice Bible story for your grandkids' bedtime? No, beloved, that's a blueprint. That's God showing you that when He orchestrates a divine union, He doesn't just bless it, He banks it. Heaven opens vaults for assignments it takes seriously. And your union, the one that's been written in eternity's ledger since before the foundation of the earth. That's the kind of assignment that moves mountains of provision. Two mantle merging, two anointings colliding, two authorities combining into something this generation has never witnessed before. But here's where it gets dangerous, and I need you to hear this with every fiber of your being. Most people abort their destiny right here, right at this revelation, because legacy sounds heavy, authority sounds scary, double dominion sounds like too much responsibility for someone who's just trying to make it through their golden years in peace. And that's exactly why the enemy has spent your entire lifetime isolating you, convincing you that you're too old, too tired, too broken, too late. Because if he could keep you separated from the one soul who amplifies your frequency, he could keep you from the one thing that terrifies him most, your bloodline restored. Look at Esther and Mordecai in the book of Esther. Two relatives, two callings. But when they aligned their authority, when Esther took her position in the palace and Mordecai took his position at the gate, an entire genocide got cancelled. A whole nation got saved. A bloodline that should have been erased from history became the very people who wrote the next chapter of God's story. Dual authority, one mission, generational salvation. That's not romance, dear one. That's warfare. That's two generals receiving their final orders before the greatest battle of their lives. And you're about to meet your co-commander. Your grandchildren, some who aren't even born yet, will walk under the shade of this union. They'll inherit businesses you're about to birth. They'll carry mantles you're about to ignite. They'll step into rooms with authority because you broke the curse that kept your family poor, sick, silent, and small for 100 years. Together, and this is the part that's making demons panic right now, together, you'll carry authority to restore what your bloodline lost. The land your great-grandfather had stolen, the wealth your grandmother never saw, the voice your mother was too afraid to use, the calling your father buried in bitterness. It's all coming back. But it's coming back doubled. Zechariah 9:12 says, "Return to your fortress, you prisoners of hope. Even now I announce that I will restore twice as much to you." Twice as much. Not the same amount you lost, not just enough to get by. Double dominion, double portion, double authority. And it requires double partnership. So stop waiting for someone to complete you. You're not incomplete, beloved. You're loaded, you're armed, you're anointed. What's coming isn't here to fix you, they're here to fight with you. When your frequencies lock, kingdoms fall. When your prayers align, hell's strategies collapse. When your authorities merge, the enemy loses territory he thought he'd secured forever. This is why you've felt alone for so long. This is why every relationship before this one fell apart. This is why you've been preserved, protected, isolated in God's refining chamber. Because the union approaching you isn't about your happiness. It's about heaven's next move. You're not waiting for love. You're carrying the architecture of heaven's invasion plan. And the one coming? They're carrying the other half of the blueprint. Type legacy begins now. If you feel this in your bones, if something just unlocked in your spirit that can never be locked again. You woke up different this morning, didn't you? Something shifted while you slept. The air tastes heavier, thicker, like it's carrying weight it didn't have yesterday. You walked to the kitchen, poured your coffee, looked out the window at the same Brooklyn street you've seen for 30 years, but it doesn't look the same anymore. The sunlight feels louder, the silence feels alive. Your chest hums with an unexplainable knowing that won't let you shake it off as imagination. Last night, heaven didn't just speak to you, it rewrote your frequency. You went to sleep human. You woke up divine in resonance. Listen to what I'm telling you, beloved. This isn't poetry. This isn't metaphor. Romans 12:2 says, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." But here's what the church never taught you. The transformation doesn't happen in your head first. It happens in your cells, in your bones, in the electromagnetic field that surrounds your body like an invisible signature from God Himself. And right now, in this very moment, your signature is changing. Something's different today. It's already happening. You feel it when you breathe, don't you? That slight electric pulse in your chest every time oxygen fills your lungs. You feel it when you close your eyes, that gentle pressure behind your eyelids like someone's watching you from the inside out. You feel it when strangers look at you now. They can't explain it, but they sense something has shifted in your atmosphere. They're picking up what heaven just downloaded into you. Something's different today. It's already happening. But here's what's making the enemy panic right now. You're not the only one experiencing this. Somewhere across this city, maybe in the Bronx, maybe in Harlem, maybe 15 blocks from where you're sitting, there's another soul waking up to the same frequency shift. Their chest is humming the same tune. Their eyes are seeing the same light in ordinary moments. Their spirit is tuning into the same divine broadcast. And you're about to collide. 2 Corinthians 5:17 declares, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old has gone, the new is here." But most people think that's talking about salvation. It's not. It's talking about this. This supernatural metamorphosis where God takes your old frequency, the one that attracted drama, dysfunction, and dead-end connections, and replaces it with His frequency. The shift you prayed for didn't come from the sky. It came from your cells. Something's different today. It's already happening. Now let me ask you something that's going to shake you. How many mornings have you woken up feeling exactly the same? How many decades have you opened your eyes to the same heaviness, the same loneliness, the same ache for something you couldn't name? How many times have you begged God for change and felt nothing? But this morning is different. You are walking proof that resurrection isn't just a story from 2,000 years ago. Resurrection is a frequency. And beloved, you just tuned in. Think about Lazarus, 4 days dead, wrapped in grave clothes, sealed in a tomb. Everyone had given up. Everyone had moved on. Everyone had accepted that dead meant done. But then Jesus showed up and spoke one word, "Lazarus, come forth." And that word carried a frequency that penetrated death itself. That same frequency just penetrated your tomb. The tomb of loneliness, the tomb of too late, the tomb of nobody understands me, the tomb of settling for connections that drain you instead of the one soul that completes you. You didn't just wake up this morning. You came forth. And here's the part that's going to wreck you. The person you're being prepared to meet, the soul that matches your frequency, they woke up different today too. They're feeling the same hum, seeing the same light, carrying the same unexplainable, knowing that something sacred just shifted in the atmosphere. You're not imagining this, you're intercepting it. The air itself has changed because heaven just synchronized two souls who've been orbiting each other in the spirit realm for decades. You've been praying for them without knowing their name. They've been crying for you without seeing your face. And now, right now, the divine collision course has been set. If you can feel the air humming with purpose, if your chest won't stop vibrating with holy anticipation, if you know something eternal just rewrote your story type, it's already happening in the comments. Let heaven and earth witness that you received the download, that you felt the shift, that you're ready for the soul God's been hiding until this exact moment. Because, beloved, what happens next will prove that God doesn't just answer prayers. He orchestrates collisions. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. Something's been happening to you lately, hasn't it? And you can't explain it to anyone because it sounds absolutely insane when you try to put it into words. Last Tuesday, you thought about someone you haven't spoken to in 17 years. By Thursday, they texted you out of nowhere. You needed exactly $247 to cover that bill, and somehow you got a refund check for $247 in the mail. You keep seeing 11, 11, 3:33, 4:44 on every clock you pass. You walk into the grocery store and bump into 3 people from your past in 15 minutes. The world calls this coincidence, but you and I both know better. This is coordination. Heaven is rearranging your reality in real time, and if you're paying attention, if you're spiritually awake enough to see it, you'll notice that nothing in your life is random anymore. Every conversation feels scripted. Every delay seems purposeful. Every detour leads exactly where you needed to go. It's terrifying and exhilarating at the same time, isn't it? Here's what's actually happening. God has turned your life into sheet music. And now, beloved, every note is playing itself. You're not orchestrating this anymore. You're not forcing doors open or manipulating outcomes. You're watching in real time as the divine conductor raises his baton and the symphony of your destiny begins to play. But let me ask you something that's going to shake you. What if every single delay you've endured over the last 5, 10, 20 years wasn't God ignoring you? What if every closed door, every rejection, every not yet was heaven tuning the orchestra? Think about it. An orchestra doesn't just start playing the moment the musicians sit down. There's that painful, chaotic period where everyone's warming up, strings screeching, horns blaring, drums thumping. Nothing sounds right. It sounds like noise. It sounds like disorder. It sounds like everything's going wrong. That's been your life, hasn't it? The job that fell through, the relationship that ended, the move that didn't happen, the dream that died, the diagnosis that came, the betrayal that broke you. Nothing made sense. Nothing sounded beautiful. It was just noise. But then the conductor lifts his hand. Silence falls. And suddenly every instrument knows exactly when to play. The chaos becomes a masterpiece. The noise becomes a symphony. The waiting becomes worth it. Romans 8:28 says, "And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose." But here's what they don't teach you in Sunday school. That word "work together," in the original Greek, it's synergio. It means to cooperate, to co-labor, to move in synchronized motion. God hasn't been randomly throwing blessings and trials at you, hoping something sticks. He's been synchronizing every element of your life, the painful ones and the beautiful ones, to create one unified moment of breakthrough. And that moment is now. This is not coincidence. It's coordination. Look at your life right now. Really, look at it. How many things that seemed disconnected 6 months ago are suddenly linking together? How many conversations are you having where someone says exactly what you needed to hear? How many doors are opening that you stopped knocking on years ago? You're not imagining this. You're witnessing divine orchestration in motion. And here's what breaks my heart. Some of you are so used to disappointment that you're doubting the very miracle you've been praying for. You're standing in the middle of your answered prayer and calling it luck. Stop it, right now. Stop diminishing what God is doing. If your week has felt strangely aligned, if things are clicking into place in ways that defy logic, say it out loud right now. I see the pattern. Don't just think it, speak it. Because when you verbally acknowledge what God is doing, you give him permission to accelerate it. But I need to warn you about something. When heaven moves, everything familiar begins to tremble. Your old routines won't fit anymore. Your old friendships might feel strained. Your old mindset will feel like a cage. You're going to feel unstable, unbalanced, uncertain. And that trembling, that shaking you feel in your spirit right now, that's not fear, beloved. That's not doubt. That's the proof that transformation is near. The earthquake comes before the breakthrough. The shaking comes before the settling. The chaos comes before the clarity. So if your life feels like it's vibrating at a frequency you can't control, if you feel like you're standing on holy ground and the very earth beneath you is shifting good, that means you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Because the soul that matches your frequency, they're feeling it too, right now, in a different city, a different state, maybe just a few miles away. They're experiencing the same divine rearrangement, the same supernatural synchronization, the same holy disruption. And heaven is bringing you together on purpose, with precision, with perfect timing. So tell me, chosen one, are you ready to stop resisting the trembling and start trusting the transformation? But before that soul arrives, before that frequency locks into yours, before heaven finalizes this divine convergence, there's one thing standing between you and your destiny. A test. Not the kind you study for. Not the kind you see coming. This is the threshold test, the corridor of contradiction where every chosen one must walk alone. And beloved, it's already begun. You felt it this morning, didn't you? That strange emptiness. That whisper in your mind saying, maybe nothing's happening. Maybe you imagined the whole thing. That's not your doubt talking. That's your test arriving. Listen to me carefully. Every single person God has ever used, every Abraham, every Moses, every David had to walk through this corridor. It's where blessings hide behind brokenness, where promises dress up as problems, where your miracle wears the mask of a mistake. And here's what will shatter your mind. The enemy won't attack you with disaster this week. He's too smart for that. He'll attack you with doubt. He'll come dressed as logic, as common sense, as your own voice whispering in the 3 a.m. darkness. Who are you kidding? Nobody's coming. You're going to die alone, just like you always feared. Fear sounds logical. faith sounds insane. Think about Peter. Matthew 14 tells us he's walking on water, actually defying the laws of physics, and then what happens? When he saw the wind, he was afraid. He saw the wind, not a tidal wave, not a shark. Wind, something completely normal. And that normal thing made him sink. Your test won't look dramatic. It'll look ordinary. It'll be your daughter's phone call with the same complaint. Your doctor's appointment getting rescheduled again. Your bank account that still looks the same. And the enemy will whisper, "See? Nothing's changed. You got emotional over a video, that's all." But logic never parted seas. Logic told Noah he was crazy building a boat when it had never rained. Logic told Abraham to keep his son safe, not sacrifice him on a mountain. Logic told Moses that Pharaoh held all the power. But faith, wild, illogical, unreasonable faith, that's what split oceans. That's what birthed nations. That's what turned shepherds into kings. Right now, some of you are sitting in that exact tension. You felt something real when this message started. Your chest tightened. Your spirit stirred. You knew something shifted in the heavens over your life. But now you're wondering if it was just emotion, just words, just another empty promise. Don't you dare interpret silence as absence. God isn't late. He's strategic. He's not ignoring you. He's preparing you. Because the soul that's coming to match your frequency, they need to meet the refined version of you, not the rushed version. They need to encounter you after this test, not before it. Habakkuk 2-3 says, "Though it tarries, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry." Do you hear the paradox? It delays, but it doesn't delay. It's coming exactly on time, even when time feels like torture. The shaking isn't collapse, it's construction. Think about it. Before any building rises, the ground shakes. Before any butterfly flies, the cocoon tears. Before any diamond shines, the pressure crushes. What you're feeling right now, that instability, that uncertainty, that sense that everything familiar is crumbling, that's not your life falling apart. That's your old frequency dying, so your new frequency can emerge. Moses stood at the Red Sea with 2 million terrified people behind him, Egyptian chariots thundering toward him, and water blocking his path. That's a threshold moment. That's when logic screams, "You're trapped." But faith whispers, "Watch what God does with impossible situations." And you know what Moses did? Exodus 14:13, he told the people, "Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord." Not run, not panic, not make backup plans. Stand still. That's your assignment this week. Stand still in your faith while everything around you moves in chaos. Stand still in your hope while circumstances scream hopelessness. Stand still in your trust while fear offers you 1,000 logical exit strategies. Because here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. Every trembling cell in your body right now is proof that heaven is upgrading you for what's approaching. Your nervous system isn't breaking down. It's being rewired for a higher frequency. Your emotions aren't unstable. They're being recalibrated for deeper connection. Your peace isn't absent. It's being deepened to withstand the weight of the love that's coming. But you must survive the corridor. You must walk through the contradiction. You must choose faith when fear sounds smarter. If fear has been shouting louder than faith, if doubt has been drowning out hope, if logic has been bullying your belief, I need you to type right now, "I still trust the frequency," not because you feel it, not because you see it, but because you know somewhere beneath all the noise, beneath all the doubt, beneath all the delay, you know that what God started, He finishes. What heaven spoke, it performs. What your soul recognized, it will receive. The test isn't meant to break you, chosen one. It's meant to prove that you can't be broken. Not anymore. Not after everything you've survived. Not after every valley you've walked through. Not after every night you cried yourself to sleep and still woke up praising. You didn't come this far to stop at the threshold. The door is right there. The soul is almost here. The frequency is locking in. But first you have to prove you'll trust God in the silence the same way you praised Him in the stirring. You have to show heaven you're not a seasonal believer. You're a chosen one who knows that delays aren't denials and silence isn't absence. So stand still. Keep your frequency pure. Don't let fear contaminate what faith is building, because what's coming through that door isn't just any soul. It's the soul, the one coded to your frequency, the one who speaks your language, the one who ends your loneliness forever. But they can only find you if you stay on the frequency God assigned you. And that means passing the test. Are you ready to stand when everything in you wants to run? Are you ready to believe when everything around you screams give up? Are you ready to hold your frequency when the enemy tries to knock you off course? Because, beloved, the threshold is where miracles are born, and you're standing on it right now. Chosen one, as we close this divine encounter, I need you to carry 3 eternal truths with you into tomorrow. First, remember this. Your loneliness was never rejection, it was protection. God was preserving your frequency, keeping it pure, maintaining your signal strength until the one soul who could match it was ready to receive. Every lonely night wasn't abandonment, it was preparation. Second, the soul that's approaching isn't coming to complete you, they're coming to amplify you. You're already whole in Christ. But when 2 whole souls operating on heaven's frequency connect, they don't just add to each other, they multiply. They create kingdom impact that shakes the earth and shifts atmospheres. And third, the test you're walking through right now, that corridor of contradiction where faith battles fear, this isn't evidence that nothing's happening. It's proof that everything is happening. Hell only fights what heaven is about to release. But I need you to hear me clearly. You are not walking this journey alone. The God who scheduled this divine appointment hasn't abandoned you in the waiting. He's working behind every closed door, orchestrating every delay, positioning every piece on the chessboard of your destiny. Romans 8:28 promises all things work together for good to them that love God. Not some things, all things. And beyond God's faithfulness, you have a community right here. Thousands of chosen ones just like you, feeling the same frequency, fighting the same doubts, holding the same hope. We're not just strangers on the internet. We're a tribe of believers who understand what it means to broadcast on a wavelength this world wasn't built to receive. So let me ask you this. Now that you know your loneliness has purpose, now that you understand your frequency is being protected, now that you see the soul approaching, will you hold steady? Will you keep your signal pure? Will you trust God's timing even when the silence feels unbearable? I want to hear from you right now. Drop a comment below and tell us what's stirring in your spirit. Share what God whispered to your heart during this message. Ask for prayer. This community will surround you with intercession. And if you know someone who's crying at 3 a.m. for a soul they've never met, share this message with them. Let them know they're not crazy. They're chosen. Thank you for trusting me with this hour of your life. Thank you for opening your heart, for staying until the end, for being brave enough to believe that heaven really does have someone coded to your exact frequency. Your faithfulness tells me everything I need to know. You're ready for what's coming. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. You're not just subscribing to content, you're connecting with a movement of chosen ones who refuse to settle for surface-level connection. You belong here. This is your spiritual family. Now, before you step back into your world, let me place my hand on your shoulder through these words and pray over your life with everything in me. Almighty Father, I lift up every precious soul who has journeyed with us tonight. Lord, you see them in that Brooklyn apartment, that Queens bedroom, that Bronx subway car, feeling that holy ache that won't let them rest. You know their name, you know their frequency, you know the soul you've assigned to match theirs. God, I pray that you would strengthen them through this threshold test. When doubt whispers, let your truth shout. When fear suggests they imagined it all, let your spirit confirm that this is real, this is ordained, This is already in motion. Give them supernatural patience to wait without wavering, faith to believe without seeing, and hope to hold on when holding on feels impossible. Father, protect their frequency. Don't let bitterness contaminate it. Don't let disappointment distort it. Don't let loneliness lower it. Keep them broadcasting on heaven's wavelength, pure and strong and clear, so that when their destined soul approaches, the connection will be instant, undeniable, and eternal. I speak divine timing over this convergence. No delay from the enemy, no interference from hell, no confusion from the world. What you've scheduled in eternity will manifest in time exactly when it's supposed to, exactly how it's supposed to, exactly with who it's supposed to. Bless them in their waiting, Lord. Heal the wounds from connections that didn't match their frequency. Restore their hope that was damaged by souls who couldn't understand their language. Breathe fresh faith into their weary hearts that this time, this soul will be different. And Father, let them feel your presence right now, like a warm blanket on a cold night, like a gentle hand on their shoulder, like a whisper in their spirit saying, I see you, I'm with you, and I haven't forgotten what I promised you. In the mighty name of Jesus, who knows what it means to be perfectly understood and deeply loved, I seal this prayer. Let your will be done. Amen. Chosen one, the frequency is holding, the soul is approaching, the convergence is coming. Until we meet again, keep your signal strong, your faith stronger, and your heart open to the miracle heaven is orchestrating in secret. You are seen, you are known, you are loved, and you are not alone. God bless you, beloved. Your divine appointment is closer than you think.